Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 16 millimeter film crew. I'm Cindy.
And I'm Dale.
You can watch us on YouTube. You can like and comment on our YouTube videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can listen to us everywhere podcasts are found at 16 millimeter Film Crew Podcast. And you can visit us on our website at www.16millimeterfilmcrew.com. This week we watched Eddington, directed by Ari Aster. During the COVID-19 pandemic, a standoff between a small town sheriff and mayor sparks a power keg as neighbor is pitted against neighbor in Eddington, New Mexico. This movie stars Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, Luke Grimes, Deidre O'Connell, Michael Ward, Austin Butler, and Emma Stone. So, Dale, what were your thoughts on this movie?
This movie is a lot. I remember reading reviews about it, and like one of the main issues a lot of critics had across the board, even though they praised it universally, I didn't understand it at the time, was it's really inconsistent. And in watching the movie, I was like, yeah, this is really inconsistent. Like this, for me, this is like a stumble for Ari Aster and A24 as the main production company for this project. This is not a project that, you know, A24 went out their wheelhouse and like, oh, we want the distribution rights. This is something they came up with together as a production company. Um, yeah, and I feel like this is one of their first stumbles as an actual, independent production company, not something that they're just there as producers. This is hopefully their project. This is like one of their first major stumbles. Um, it's a lot. I get like I know Ari Aster is he's American, born and raised here, but I get a lot of Civil War vibes from it. He's trying to connect. It's supposed to be a comedy, but it really doesn't, a black comedy, but it doesn't really come off that way. It really comes off as a conspiracy theorist is like wet dream, as the story progresses, and that's like my biggest disconnect with it.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain that one more to me.
Like
That
especially like near the end where they like, especially with after the end with what happens with the mayor, and the story shifts totally to be 100% based on the experiences of Joaquin Phoenix's character as the sheriff and his tirade on Antifa, and then of course the group of individuals that somehow invade the city and cause all these riots and chaos, that kind of thing. It seems like uh we're still in the political climate of that. It seems like a MAGA fans like wet dream, like all these things are real kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Mm. Oh, yeah, I don't know if I liked it. I don't think I disliked it, but I don't know if I liked it either. I'm
Yeah.
not really sure how I feel about it. I think I have to take some more time and think about it. But initially I was like, okay, this is kind of funny. Like I was laughing, and so were other people in the theater. Like some of the jokes were like it felt real to like or like satire of how people were acting during that time. And it is frustrating to focus on someone who has issues with like basic health and safety procedures and stuff, but those people obviously existed. Not it wasn't great focusing on him, but also like everyone in the movie was kind of terrible. So
Mhm.
I guess it didn't matter because even the mayor, like even though he was doing what was required, he was also just like trying to finagle his way into like keeping power because he wanted to get that plant going and it was really about the business. It was and him getting reelected. It wasn't really about like necessarily caring about the people of town. Um and it was I don't know, it was showing that like, oh, okay, both sides are kind of not the best, which like true. Um and I don't know, I had a hard time with it just because it's like I heard someone else say this, but I feel like it's true. It's like it's hard to kind of dissect something that we're all still processing. Like none of us have really
Yeah.
figured out how fully come to grips with like what COVID did to our brains and to us like societally. So it is weird to kind of make a movie this recent about that situation that we
Mm-hmm.
haven't even dealt with all the way. I I see in the end when they tie it all together just how like at the end of the day, whatever causes anyone's bouts, like it's more just about like class and about money and about big business taking over and the corruption of, wealthy people in power. Like that made more sense to me as like the, I guess, overarching message because he doesn't really like it is a civil war kind of thing where it's like he doesn't really take a position on either side. And I have to say, I am over that. I know that there are some people who feel like, oh, well, as these directors and stuff, like they just want to present the story to you. Like they don't want to, say that they're on this side or that side, or they're taking this position or that position. They're just presenting all the information. And honestly, I don't care for that anymore. I feel like if you're going to make a political movie, you need to pick a
Pick a
side.
side.
Sorry. That's just how I feel. Hot take. But I just feel like I'm kind of over the diddly and daddling of like, oh, we're just trying to present both sides equally. Like I don't care about that. Like to me, there isn't like a both sides argument anymore. To me, it's
Mm-hmm.
like one side is clearly like trying to destroy all of our lives. So like let's focus on that. If you're not going to focus on that, don't make a political movie
Yeah, and
or like an overtly political movie
yeah.
because all art is kind of political anyway. So
Yeah, and it's clear he tried to dabble a bit in the both sides of kind of weird kind of thing, using in the beginning of the mayor. Yes, I understand the issue, and I could kind of see it. But me being uh immune compromised. Like the concerns of like, oh, I shouldn't. People didn't want to wear masks, so couldn't breathe. I understood that because me being immune compromised, I understand people have illnesses, which sometimes make it difficult. But also being immune compromised, I understood the importance of wearing masks. And I did agree with the beginnings of Joaquin's character of being like, y'all are turning neighbor against neighbor, friend or friend. Like there's an easier way to do this. Like to be kind of help people. Like he even goes and gets the guy's groceries for him when he can't go into the store, which I'm fine with. And then you have the mayor kind of he's in the beginning cast as the villain when they start going and talk about how he wants to push through this data center. And this movie is coming about at a time where we're dealing with AI and these data centers and the issues with a lot of these data centers using up a large amount of water for their uses. And part of the reason why they get these data centers, they go where places where they can get water rights and take up town's water supply. So he's already painted as a villain, but then it just goes into like you see that Joaquin's character is trapped in an echo chamber between it's him, apparently his father was like that, Emma Stone's character is trying to escape that, but still staying married to him, and then her mother's the same way, which is interesting because she rails against big business in the beginning of the movie, and then at the end, after Joaquin's character is paralyzed, she's his mouthpiece, and oh, guess what? She's agreed with the data center business, and she gets this big mansion, which is funny. Cause I love the way conservative politicians always are anti-big business for the people, but once they get on that stage, money starts coming out of nowhere. I like he wasn't sure which side he wanted to showcase, and I think he wanted the audience to somehow see both sides are flawed, which there is a way to do it and a wrong way to do it, and I think this didn't execute that vision properly. But then in reading more about this kind of story, like he always said he was working on a western for like a long time, a contemporary western film, which this movie is supposed to be, and he said he wrote this movie like or wanted to make it somewhat 4 or 5 years before making Hereditary and Midsommar. And there is a reason why some movies, once you realize they've taken you far too long to execute and come up with, they should just stay there. You should realize at a certain point, no matter how hard you want to make this particular story, that if it's taking you this long to finish a vision, it's probably should stay where it's at, you know.
yeah, I feel like this movie is like uh, he had an idea of something, and I think that it made sense in the beginning. Like you were saying, like as the movie kind of starts to unfold, it makes more sense of like where he's trying to go with it. once the sheriff Joaquin becomes a murderer, like he's just out here killing people, that's when you kind of lose the plot a little bit. Or at least to me, it felt like the plot was
Yeah,
lost once we hit that portion and like the back half of the movie.
yeah,
So that kind of derailed where this movie could have gone because there were a lot of points that he was making that were sort of interesting. Like I think the conspiracy theory stuff was a huge part of this, and I thought that was really interesting. But even in that, we didn't spend enough time with Emma Stone. We didn't spend enough time with Austin Butler, like figuring out that piece of it.
that
That was a
cult
really
side.
that was really quick insert.
Yeah,
And these are great actors, and we didn't really get to see them do much in this, which I think was kind of a disservice to them as well. Like, unless it's just like, I mean, I get like you're gonna have actors to come in and do like bit roles, and that's fine, but I just don't. I feel like there was a lot more to explore there, and we didn't get to see that because we were focused on Joaquin spiraling. Like, and this movie feels a little bit to me like Bo was afraid in terms of like you had a good idea and then but your movies are too damn long, and if you would have trimmed the fat on it and had a more concise vision, maybe you could have gotten to something more interesting, but because you decided to keep this thing going, you lost the plot. Like that to me, like this is a very like lost the plot kind of movie, and it's also like an overstuffed movie with like a bunch of different things going on. And in the effort of like trying to present all sides, you just got lost in the sauce of
yeah.
it. So I just feel like he just needs to like focus more or like someone. I'm not really for the whole like executives telling you like having notes and stuff and like trying to like insert their own ideas into like a director's movie, but maybe someone should have been like, hey, like there's a lot here. Why don't we like consolidate it a little bit?
Yeah.
So the audience can have like a fully fleshed out beginning to end kind of a story instead of this kind of wandering narrative that happens. So that was my main issue with it because I do think that like unpacking this stuff and like seeing the human side of it is interesting.
Mm.
I really liked the fact that they brought up the whole like white privilege, white guilt, whatever that was, with these like young people who
Read,
are online
read concepts they don't fully understand.
don't even know who Angela Davis is. Like, what
Yeah,
are y'all even learning in
yeah,
school these days? Crazy. And, trying to be like, oh, well, I know that I'm not traumatized by this, but I will be the loudest voice on it. That was like stuff like that. Like, that was a good thing to bring forward. And the comedy in that is like, obviously, like, y'all have no idea what you're talking about.
yeah,
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, thank you for doing some work, I guess, but like that's not you're not centering Black voices if you're the loudest person talking. Um, so I thought that that was a good thing to put in there, especially for like I don't know Gen Z or whatever young people who just like be yelling sometimes and who want to help but maybe are just like a little misdirected.
mm,
So that was a good piece in there. The black cop just being like completely betrayed. I was like, yeah, see, that's what happens when you become
yeah,
a black cop. That's why you don't do
yeah,
that job. Like,
yeah,
I'm glad he didn't die at the end because I was gonna be really upset if they killed him off. That would have
yeah.
pissed me off. And he doesn't die at the end, but like he also doesn't get to me the ending of him.
He stays a sheriff. He's still a sheriff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was just like, well, you're still a part of the system. So again, and it's like, see, and that's also like if you had some black people on your writing staff, you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
there are certain issues with making these type of movies.
yeah.
You're running into some hazards there, and if you have blind spots, which you do if you're a
What you
white
do?
person in this country, like you're gonna miss it, and then the movie's gonna feel tone deaf.
Yeah.
So it's like, is this a risk that you want to take? I don't know. He already did it, so I guess so.
It's
And
the risk
people
is already
like it,
there. Yeah, so yeah.
so I guess it's fine. But I mean, just for me, I'm not sold.
And I think in this movie, this is why I also say it's kind of a black comedy in a way because it's trying to be serious and it's also trying to be funny at the same time. And you hit an interesting point. The B plot with the black cop, and it does a lot because you have the mayor's son and his friend who are just trying to get with chicks by pretending to be socially conscious. His friend gets jealous because he starts spending more time with Sarah, and then you have a black sheriff who had a relationship with this white girl that he's not sure of her age, you know, and then in bitterness, the mayor's son sends the black cop the image of his friend and the girl he liked to kissing. And then you have the issue of, because it's taking place during COVID pandemic and George Floyd and beyond until it happened there, you have the cop who is working at the sheriff's station where his boss is super paranoid and his the other white cop is already gone. He's already MAGA trending already, and he's like, oh, you should be out there protecting against the protest. And he's like, oh, I've been reading up on this. The situation is a lot more complicated, and you see that conflict of him being a black man and a cop, and that's something I'm interested in because I have a friend who is a cop, and when all this was happening, I was deeply enraged, and I was like, bro, you should say something. You're a cop, but you're black. What's your opinion? And and looking back on it now, I came at him way too hard.
Mm.
And I was like, bro, come on, you're a black person first for a cop. And he at the time he told the cop lines like, I can't say anything. I'm not gonna say anything. And for me, I couldn't understand why. But now as I got older, I was like, okay, there are certain lines he can't cross. And I wish that we spent more time with this cop in processing, you know, the line that is happening. And then you also jump right to him being framed as well, being the only black cop on the force. And then the issue is also that fucking Joaquin's character didn't even know that he was with the girl before, but somehow he already had planted the watch. That means he intentionally planted on this black man already. Those kind of things, like you said, as a white director dealing with topics and issues that you don't really fully understand, you kind of lose the sauce a lot. And yes, okay, this is supposed to be a comedy, but when you start, like you said, the halfway point after Joaquin kills the mayor and his son, it becomes a serious movie. And then somehow once again becomes a comedy when apparently Antifa shows up. Like, yeah, I can't even properly, coherently put together my issues with a lot of the stuff in this movie.
There's a lot of stuff to
Yeah,
have issues with. And that's my thing. I'm really not a fan of this type of filmmaking where it's just like we want to talk about serious issues, but also make it a comedy, but also make it like human and by the way and by that making it human, making it more serious, and we're not going to pick a side, and we're going to kind of mash all these different things together. Like the fact that even like the Black Lives Matter protest or organization was chosen to be like the main group that was having all these issues where all the conflict was coming from, um or at least what seemed to be the conflict in this movie, and how it was being used to, as what the sheriff is using it to, get out of the fact that, the Native American cop is onto him and stuff. Like, it's like you're playing with too many things and it just feels like you don't understand any of it.
yeah,
Or you do understand it, and by like not choosing a side, you are choosing a side because maybe your point of view is, I feel like he's probably like a libertarian, some crap like that. Oh, sorry, no offense to libertarians. But something like where it's like, I'm just here for American freedom, and like you're not thinking about like what any of that means and how that disproportionately affects minority groups and other groups that you're just not a part of.
yeah,
So it's just frustrating to watch movies like this making by filmmakers like this who want to like make art and whatever and like talk about humanity, but like not really have that much to say about it other than presenting like the stuff that we've already gone through and we already know.
yeah,
So overall, I guess now talking through it, I'm not a huge fan.
yeah. And it's not even that they're making stuff about things that have happened that they want to like show both viewpoints of it. It's stuff that's still currently happening. Like, we're still dealing with the fallout of all this. We're like this civil war. Like, and I'm not surprised that it's white directors who go on and make movies about this. with lacking a clear understanding of with Civil War. The director of Civil War, not American, not understanding the American socio-political landscape 100% at all. Ari Aster, being a predominantly white Jewish man from New York, not understanding how southern small towns, how conservative, like not being in a conservative zeitgeist like us, like even though we're both from major black cities in New York and Atlanta, we've been in Alabama.
Hmm.
I live in Atlanta, which is still Georgia, which I still understand. Okay, this is how these people think. Like him not having a full grasp of it, just going 100% on the small town. Everybody's kind of off kilter in a way, and then also including these, conservative view like with Black Lives Matter, and then all the Antifa stuff, and yeah, it's and also the lack of inclusion of the tribal police and their constant disrespect, you know, along the way. And also taking the piss out of it, where these white kids like, oh, we're on stolen land the whole time. It's white men not fully understanding concepts that they want to make movies about, but then turn them into comedy. I think you have to understand the subject matter to be able to create the jokes, and that's the thing they lacked.
Yes, that's really it. Like that really is it. Because even when I'm forgetting his name now, the director of Civil War was saying that when he gave an interview talking about it, when he was saying like, well, there are extremists on the left side and blah blah blah, and it's like, okay, and it's like, sure, there you can be extreme in either direction, but I feel like what you're failing to grasp here, sir, is that like for right now, like there's one party that's in power right now, and that is the right side. But also societally, we're much more conservative than we were even when COVID was happening.
Yeah,
Like things have shifted, everything has shifted so much to the right that you can't even be like, oh, both sides, whatever, because like there is one side, there's one trend that's taking over the majority of American society. So like you
mm,
can't, so I don't know. It's again, like I said, it's just frustrating because it's like it's not like your points are wrong when you are exploring certain things. Like I see what you're saying and I see where you're going with it, and you're not wrong. Like these people exist, this stuff happened. I know many people who were online every single day during the COVID pandemic, getting radicalized. They didn't even realize they were getting radicalized by all of this misinformation, all of these lies and stuff. Like, yes, like that is real. Like that literally happened. I think my issue is that like your point of view matters. Like whatever your point of view going into making this movie, that's what's gonna be the kind of bloodline, the blood that kind of runs through the whole thing, where it's just like however you're seeing it is the message that is going to come out from in terms of the overall movie.
yeah,
Now, the audience doesn't have to receive it that way, but from what I'm seeing, I can kind of tell your point of view, and maybe you are, very liberal or whatever. I don't know where Ari Aster, I don't know what his political leanings are,
yeah,
but whatever was presented in this movie just goes to show me that like you're not really well educated on these issues.
yeah,
It kind of just seems like you read the New York Times a couple of times and then was like, okay, I think I get what this is, and then just
yeah,
you read the Cliff Notes but didn't really do the research. That's what it's feeling to me. Now, he may have, but that's not what I received from it. So I don't know.
yeah.
It wasn't giving what maybe he wanted it to
Yeah.
give.
And
That's how I feel.
and that's the thing. I think the biggest issue with this movie is the middle part. Once he kills the mayor, everything kind of goes, what the fuck is going on? Like it's a
Hmm.
complete inconsistent shift. And then he tries to pull it back later with, Brian, who's with Brian now becoming a conservative. He pivots to the opposite way and becomes a conservative influencer. And then they start making jokes. And then it ties back into, like I said in the beginning, where the mother is now living in this big mansion. Like the middle part, like, completely destroys whatever story he was telling at the beginning, which you could see he could, like, in the beginning, you could see he's kind of leaning more to take the piss out of conservative people and see
Hmm.
how absurd they are. But once he goes in the on the sheriff's like murder spree, like after that the story just like completely falls away. Like had they if they want to include the murder, fine. I think they could have trimmed the fat with him killing the hobo first. Not
Yeah, that
important.
was
That whole bar scene was unnecessary. You could have cut that out and just went to your transition already of him driving away, and then we don't know. He just drives away, and it's night. The mayor's in his house or whatever, and he gets shot. Then we see Joaquin. Oh, okay, cool. That was we can kind of tell he came back and killed the mayor. Blah 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 blah. That stuff could have been done, and yeah, it's yeah.
yeah. I feel like he maybe he gets his just desserts in the end because I don't know, he can't speak anymore and he's disabled, but I don't know if that was even right thing to do in terms maybe they were trying to show like, I don't know, how disabled people get treated by like the medical system. I don't know what
Yeah,
he
what
was
were you doing with
I'm
like
not really sure about that piece either. So again, it kind of does just fall apart towards the end. Like it's just kind of a mess. Like, and that's when I tell you that's exactly what it was with Bo was afraid. It was just like, okay, so this doesn't make any sense anymore.
yeah,
Like you had an idea, you were working with something, and then everything kind of just fell
this falls
apart.
apart. Yeah,
And to
which
me, I feel like this was probably one of the more accessible films. Like you could show this to like a family member, maybe. Like it's not his surrealist, it's not horror like he did in the early day. Like this, you could actually show this to like a random person and they can watch it. And like, but I just feel like it just doesn't make any sense towards the end.
yeah,
So he's good. I mean, the thing is, like, they're still gonna A24 in them. They're gonna give him the money to make more movies. So, like, what?
yeah.
I guess this makes no difference, but I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
I'm
I
not a fan of
mean,
this one.
I'm not
Sorry,
a,
sorry, Diva. I'm not feeling this
yeah,
one.
I'm not, Ari Aster. I'm not working with this one at all. It's, yeah, you're gonna have to come correct. And like this movie was, let's be honest, like box office success does not determine like how good a movie is. But this movie was shot on a budget of $25 billion. It's only made about 4 million so far. So
Well,
you know. And then yeah, and also, and this is also once again why standing ovations at Cannes do not matter because it premiered at Cannes and got a standing ovation. Please don't tell me your movie had a standing. I don't want to hear any more reporting
yeah,
of movies having standing ovations because everybody's gonna like to be crass, stroke each other's egos and dicks, hands, so don't tell me that this movie got a 3 minute standing ovation because it could have been ass, but people are gonna like still applaud it because they're so full of their own egos, and it's also with Cannes distributors are there as well looking for movies to buy. So, they're gonna buy shit off of people, the critics or other industry people like it, so I have to buy it. And then when it goes to market and it bombs, they complain and say people don't like original ideas. No, the one you chose was just ass. You know,
yeah. And 3 minutes is not good. So, like, even so with this innovations, but like, yeah, it's not. I think in terms of the industry, you're always going to have people who are like eager to put some certain directors, certain films kind of forward. And I mean, I don't mind that because, like, again, I don't mind original ideas. And like, sometimes you're going to make good movies, sometimes you're not. I think the bad part of it is that other films that are good, that are smaller, that don't have like a big director or big actors attached, a lot of
mm-hmm.
times they get lost in all that noise. So that's the issue with the
Yeah,
hyping up of certain directors. I will say that like all the actors were great.
yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix
yeah,
absolutely ate
perfect.
this.
This is a perfect Joaquin role. All you give Joaquin off kilter, he, you
He was
know,
great.
yeah,
Deidre O'Connell, who's also in The Penguin, she is fantastic. She plays Emma Stone's mom.
yeah.
wonderful. Michael Ward, who plays the black actor, love him.
Yeah,
Put him in more things. Like,
yeah.
so I think all the performances were fantastic. I think this movie was like competently made. So it's not like an issue with the filmmaking. It
It's
really is
just the
just the subject.
story,
Yeah,
and
it's the
yeah,
subject matter. That's really what the issue is here.
it's yeah. So I don't. Yeah, hopefully, they figure it out. Yeah, because like I said, when we're talking about Civil War, Alex Garland, he came back. He did not Civil Warfare after Civil War,
And that was really
and
good.
with Warfare, he's like, okay, cool. I have no idea how any of this shit was like. Let me put somebody who actually experienced this environment in charge of the movie and help me direct. And it was well received. Like that's the thing. You can't tell stories, even if you're trying to make a comedy, about experiences or concepts you do not understand. So
Get someone who understands it. That's all.
yeah,
That seems like a very
yeah,
low threshold to meet.
low threshold. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on to the news. Before we get started, um, so this is Monday night of recording, but it was reported earlier Monday morning that Michael Jamal Warner, of course, of uh, Cosby Show fame, of Malcolm and Eddie fame, directed many music videos in the '90s for groups such as New Edition and plenty other artists in the era. Illustrious career in TV. Passed away at 40, not 40, at 54, while vacationing in Costa Rica due to drowning. And it's kind of like it was important to me because he was like one of the first few like young black men I can remember watching on TV, and I could honestly, like for me, vibe with him. Being like other than my father, only dude in a house full of girls, much like how he was in the Cosby Show, and all the stuff that deals with being a young black man when your parents are kind of are older than you, not understanding you. I really vibed with him as a character in the Cosby Show, and not just that, also being able to witness, his like whole career. Like he's one of those actors who I've seen, throughout my life on different properties, and it's like the fact that he's like he was 54, and as I get older, I realize how much. Like if I was younger, I would say, "Dang, 54, that man was old," but I'm like, "Dang, I'm almost 54. Like he is still young," and so yeah, that's kind of like real, like you know sad to me. So condolences to him, close to his family, everybody close to him who knows him personally, and so yeah. But on to the rest of the news and a bit of a box office thing. We talked about Superman last year, so it's kind of trending. Superman is hitting almost at that $500 million globally, and Kevin Feige, a lot of that decided to take the time out to say that superhero fatigue is BS. He goes on to say that the issue wasn't the issue was the supply, not the demand. He himself admits, they produced almost 50 hours of content between '08 and 2019. Um, and then after, Avengers Endgame, that jumped up to like 126 hours in 6 years. So he said even for himself, he admits that quantity trumped quality. And you could also see he admits that after Endgame was where they kind of produced triple the amount of content they did. Um, he also said, probably self-contained stories where newcomers can't jump in was, without watching previous stuff, it felt like they gave people homework to do, and he credits the issues with Thunderbolts, which I still think is a success globally. Not to Marvel, but it's resetting their universe. He said nobody knew that title, and nobody knew who the characters were from the show. The only issue in Thunderbolts that nobody knew outside of who was involved in the show would have been uh Winter, not Winter Soldier, but U.S. Agent, which is John Walker's Captain America. Everybody else was introduced in their movies. I don't understand why that was the issue. He also goes on to say that one issue they had with Kang is that they shouldn't have introduced Kang as their big bad. And somebody went on to reply and said the issue wasn't you to introduce Kang. It's the fact you had Kang lose to Ant-Man, who was a comedic character in all rights, and so to have your next major big bad lose to was effectively a comedic character diminishes the anticipation for what Kang is going to do. But due to issues with Jonathan Majors, Marvel is now pivoting to going back to Doctor Doom and hiring Robert Downey Jr. Um, he even says, that they are shifting the next Avengers film will be shooting in Pinewood Studios, but the London location, not the Atlanta, not Pinewood, Atlanta slash Trilith. Um, he said it was made. This decision was made a long time during the streaming boom to help them. He says future projects will still most likely be targeted being filmed both here in Georgia and up there where you are in New York due to the competitive incentiveness, even though California expanded their tax credit. So all the fatigue, I know me personally, I've heard about people concerned about movies going back to California now this tax credit is in place. You know, the jobs will in this industry will stay in Georgia, so that's good. Um, but looking ahead for Marvel, they said, they're gonna cap it at 2 to 3 films a year, and some years just one. And we see that happening right now with, of course, Fantastic Four coming out later this year, or later next month, or later this week, or next week anyway. And also with Thunderbolts keeping it at like 2 films a year. So hopefully that, especially it's good because now I think they're also seeing the decision being made, especially now the audience, has fall in love with Superman as we talked about last week. So Marvel's kind of now trying to course correct after trying to dump a lot of content at one time, and a lot of it is also due to trying to catch up to Disney's pivot to streaming without having content. So, and Marvel was honestly the only bankable product they had. So, Kevin Feige and the powers that be are trying to backtrack that, flood of content.
Okay, so on to some other news. The Emmy nominations were revealed um, last week, I think. And leading the competition is Severance with 27 noms. The Penguin earned 24. The White Lotus and the studio tied with 23
Mm-hmm.
nominations each. Oscar winning director Martin Scorsese, Harrison Ford, Adam Brody, and Kristen Bell um, all had their first Emmy nominations. It was surprising to see Martin up there, but they have a guest star, um, best actor in a guest star role. And he was in the studio, and so he got nominated. Um, and Owen Wilson, who was in Adolescence, Kathy Bates, and Matlock received historic nominations for being the youngest and the oldest nominees in their respective categories. Bella Ramsey has made history for the LGBTQ plus community with their nomination. And Jay-Z and Beyonce also compete against each other for an Emmy.
Mm.
So a lot going on there. All I know is that I was so excited for the Severance kind of takeover of the Emmys because what a show. Honestly, I haven't stopped thinking about it since it came on earlier this year. And I'm also excited for like Adam Brody, who I think is just a great actor. He's done so many great, like, ever since like the OC, but even before that, like, he was just I just think he's a really good actor. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually really happy that like everyone loves him as hot rabbi and nobody wants this. I'm obsessed with that. And for the acting, like Pedro Pascal and stuff, for The Last of Us, like just great performance all around. Even if the season wasn't all that great,
Mm-hmm.
the performances were still top notch. And when looking through the list this year, I'm like, yeah, all of this really makes sense to me. Adolescence was a huge hit. That young actor Owen is phenomenal. Like he's gonna go on and do fantastic things. So I'm excited to see who wins. I feel like Severance and The Pit were like the biggest shows this year, so it'll be interesting to see who ends up with the best drama
Yeah.
award. So I'm excited.
I will never not sing the praises of the Pit. If you have not watched the Pit, watch the Pit. My man Noah Wiley, made his fame, in ER, and this is like his first nomination, almost like 30 years. Like from ER to now, like for an actor have that's all they said that's the largest span they've seen between multiple nominations. And like you said, Pedro Pascal's up there for like best lead drama actor, and they're kind of like that's an abnormality because he's really only like 2 episodes of the season. So they're like
Yeah.
saying he has like a lowest amount of screen time compared to like Sterling K. Brown, Gary Oldman, and Adam Sod, and Noah Wiley. Like it's his inclusion in it is a bit of like I could see it being contentious because you're no longer a part of the show anymore. It's kind of like a guest spot in a way for like 2 episodes.
Hmm.
So I can kind of see where people are kind of like, how do we make do of that? So yeah,
Yeah, tough.
so yeah. Um, so in shocking news, and not really shocking because he did go on a rant and kind of say like he's disappointed with his network partners. Uh, so as reported earlier, this week, uh, well, not reported, as brought up like Monday morning or Friday morning or whenever it occurred over the weekend. The Daily Show with Stephen Colbert has been canceled. It will not be renewed. Which is ironic because it also picks up 2 Emmy nominations this week. This comes in light of Colbert making comments partly in due to um CBS paying off Donald Trump with their lawsuit, getting about 16 million in order to I don't know why they paid him off. It was a winnable case, and all considered from every major like law law analysts said it's a winnable case. I don't know why they paid him off, but they used the excuse of trying to expedite their merger with Paramount and with Sundance to as to why they did it. That's not a real excuse. Um, some people are saying that the show itself costs almost 100 million to cost, with 15 and 20 million go to Colbert, and it's only made 60 million in revenue. So, and with an average loss of 40 million. There are plenty of other shows that have dropped to those numbers that haven't gotten uh have happened to take. I think this is also a trend we've been seeing like since like we were talking about, um Eddington since COVID. A lot of these terrestrial legacy media outlets were not able to adapt to COVID, and that downtrend started then because people had alternative avenues of receiving entertainment. You didn't have to like wait till the Daily Show came on. You can go on YouTube and watch somebody just recant the news. Like we recap industry news as well, so that people had other avenues. And I still think the industry hasn't adapted, or they're trying to adapt now in the shift in how people consume and receive their media in real time. So
So this is bad and frustrating, but not surprising, only because obviously CBS settled their lawsuit with Trump, and because Stephen Colbert was critical of that move because it was a bad move, and critical of Trump
yeah,
very consistently. He's never shied away from that.
yeah,
And Trump even said after the show was canceled that he was happy that it was canceled and that Jimmy Kimmel's next. And like, this is what fascism looks like. Like,
yeah.
the trying to silence dissenting voices, this is where it ends up, where, and it's not even like the administration themselves shut it down, but because CBS is so insistent on this merger going through and like trying to get this merger through, they're just like, oh, you said bad things about us. Okay, well then we're canceling the whole show. Like you're not even getting replaced. They're not
Yeah.
even replacing him.
Not a reduction of budget, not even
They're
like
they're
rescheduling the contract.
canceling the whole late night show, which has been going on since what David Letterman back in the how many it was
This show itself,
well the
I
late show is something that I think David Letterman took on and then he passed it on to Stephen Colbert.
yeah,
And that's how these things work. The Late Late Show was by, they had the Tonight Show. All of these shows have different hosts over the years, but that show in particular, that's the brand. That's the brand for their company. Every CBS, ABC, like everyone has their own thing.
mm,
But to cancel it just completely and not like just be like, okay, well, we don't like that he said this. We're just going to shut the whole thing down. They're saying it's fine for financial reasons. I doubt that. They had all this money to waste on this stupid lawsuit to pay Trump. So I know that there's money that y'all have. Like, it's not like y'all are without money to continue producing the show for. And Colbert is still like a show that people watch. Like maybe they're not watching it on air, they're probably watching it on YouTube, but those
Hmm.
videos have millions of views if you look at
Yeah,
any one of them. Like it's still doing very well. And Colbert is like maybe the best one out of all of them. You can debate
yeah,
like maybe him, Seth Meyers, like one of them, but like that's a crazy thing to do to shut the whole thing down. Like
yeah,
that is when it's just like we are we're positioning profit over anything else. And if one person is saying bad things that can jeopardize our deal, they're out and the whole thing is out too. So that is not great. All the the late night talk show hosts are like totally upset about this. Like they're really upset, not only because Steven's like one of their friends, but like also because it's like, well, what does this mean for everyone else's job, right? Because
yeah,
it's like anyone can say it. All of them say bad things about Trump. Like all of them do, which means that like I think Jon Stewart was saying like he doesn't know what's going to happen to the Daily Show now because he always talks about Trump,
yeah,
and so it's like okay, so are you just like not allowed to say anything that Trump won't like? It's feeling like it's more heading in that direction. And I think we should all be very disturbed and worried about this because, like, Stephen Colbert is going to be fine. To me, honestly, like the late night talk show host thing is somewhat a relic of the past. Mostly all of these late night show, most of these late night talk show hosts have podcasts, and I feel like
mhm,
that's probably where this medium is going anywhere. Anyways, is on the podcast. Like just start a podcast. Like that seems like an easy thing to do and a lot of people will listen and you'll make a lot of money. So whatever Steven does next, he'll be completely fine. So it's not really about him. It's just more about like what does it mean if you cannot one report the news accurately and then two have a dissenting opinion about the person who is in the presidency. Like that is a massive issue. So this is a big deal and it's really scary because it's like we need these outlets to like interpret the news in a way that is like entertaining and like digestible for everyone so it doesn't feel like every single day is like the worst day of our lives. You know what I mean? Like you need some type of levity and I think that that's what these comedians are doing. And if you just say okay, no more show for all of them, they'll find another place, but you have to think about the audience. Like older people are watching this and like maybe they don't have Apple Podcasts to be listening to,
yeah,
a podcast if they decide to do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like very enraging. It's
yeah.
enraging because it's so like clearly political.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna lie and say it's about finance, but that's not what it's about.
And it's clear. Like I think earlier you hit the nail on the head. Like even though the day of the live broadcast audience numbers or live viewing numbers based on Nelson ratings might not be high, those clips make 4 or 5 times the broadcast viewership online. And I think that's probably the correct pivot for if you want to do late night, fine, cool. You can make a it's and this is coming from somebody who industry. Like I feel for people working in the industry, but okay, cool. We're not hitting the numbers we want. Based we're getting ad revenue on broadcast. Cool. We're gonna have to reduce the production budget. Maybe we don't, do a live audience or as big a live audience. Maybe we cut back here or there, and we prioritize. Okay, a lot of our content works better on our digital platform where people view after, not the same time as up. You make those pivots. You put the show on a hiatus. You say, like, yo, Steven, these are the numbers we have live broadcast. These are the numbers we have online. What can we do to like at least make that shift there and make it happen? And I'm pretty sure Stephen Colbert is aware. He's aware of his online media presence and his target audience and fan base as Gen X millennials, are not going to sit there at 11 o'clock at night and watch, late night TV. We're going to go on YouTube and like, oh, Colbert Report, what happened in this episode, and watch all those clips. And I think he's aware of that. And I think if had they made the adjustment and shift instead of firing him for the Trump stuff, he would have been receptive and would have been understood 100%. Cool. We can cut the show back to like what 30 minutes and majority of our content goes online, cool, that works. That satisfies the audience, the older audience who's used to staying up till till the crack of dawn to watch Late Show, but our contemporary younger audience, they're online, and that's what we're gonna hit with that, and or add places and add revenue there, and he would have understood that. But this also goes back to the CEO, like Leslie Moldy's, like before all this merger stuff in 2016, he himself said at a Stanley Morgan conference. And Stanley Morgan is finance and stuff. He himself said, um, it may not be good for Trump is good for business. And he said it may not be good for America, but it's damn good for CPS. And those words are not biting him in the ass because he had to pay off Trump because Trump apparently did not like the interview they did with Kamala Harris and sued him over that. So yeah, these things come bite you in the ass because you're worried about a lawsuit while you're getting merged. You pay off 16 million, and now everybody's looking at you like a joke. So it is what it is. So yeah.
Yep. Okay. Sorry. It takes a long time to get back here. Oh, this phone is so stupid. Okay. All right, that was it. I just want to see if there's anything else. Okay, so let's talk about what we've been watching this week.
Me personally, I went back and I'm currently rewatched Batman with one of those father son bonding kind of things. In the middle of watching Batman, and my dad went on this whole diatribe of movies aren't good anymore because they're too dark and serious. And I had to sit there and give my dad an explanation as to why movies trended that way and break down, the cultural references as to why Michael Keaton's Batman was kind of lighthearted and funny, and why Schumacher with Val Kilmer and George Clooney's Batman were kind of skewed on camp and homoerotic a bit. And I was like, that's just a reflection of people's media preferences. And he was like, nah, it don't make no sense. And I was like, okay, buddy. I was like, all right. He's like, anyone on a long tangent as to why he doesn't like Daniel Craig's James Bond. He's like, we're the gadgets, man. And trying to explain media and culture transition to my father, which is, like I said, both him and my mom are actually why I like film as much as I do. And he can't make, like, he's not an artsy person, so that's also why he takes stuff at like face value. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm just marathoning the whole Batman, franchise right now. So
Oh, sounds fun.
yeah.
I haven't really watched anything for real for real. I do this thing where I like watch certain TV shows and movies through other content creators,
Mm-hmm.
people who have React channels.
Mm.
So I've been watching The Summer I Turned Pretty season 3 through that venue because I can't watch these like Gen Z shows in real time because they're just too cringy to even like watch for like 1 minute. Like my eyeballs will burst out of my eye sockets trying to watch some of this stuff in real time. So I have to watch it through a second party. And I'm watching The Summer I Turned Pretty season 3. It is ridiculous and a hot mess and just insane drama and like what the hell was this in the books? I don't know. I ain't read the books, so it's just kind of a mess, but I will continue to watch it. It's like this is my reality television. It's scripted drama for Gen Z audiences. That's where I get my like the drama that I don't want or need in my life. I get it from these TV shows.
Mm.
So yeah. Um it's fine so far. I feel like what's interesting about that show in particular is that like it does have so much licensed music where like they're really trying to sell you an aesthetic of like a certain thing. And I don't know, when you're hearing like Benson Boone and Chappell Ronan every like 2 seconds, it is kind of weird. It's like, what are we doing, guys? It's just a very strange thing, but that's like a part of his aesthetic. It's like whatever a 20-year-old girl in, I don't know, in college about to graduate is listening to on her playlist. Like that is what you will be hearing in The Summer I Turned Pretty. And it's like, okay, well, great. Awesome. Love it.
I don't know how I feel about those like movies or shows that are done now, which have critical acclaim and go on to be Hollywood status, like iconic status. I don't know how I feel about contemporary modern day needle drops somehow, because I do think depending on the subject matter and content of the movie, it might date it a bit. But I do also stand. You also want to be a part of the times that you are filming and targeting. I don't know. It's a weird line to tell. I do think there is an overabundance and over reliance on the needle drop in promoting some of these projects now.
I fully agree, and I think that's why you shouldn't really do it. Like, I can't. The only thing I can compare it to is when I was also young and I was watching like Gossip Girl and like the OC and things like that. But I think Gossip Girl was intentional in terms of like what kind of music they were playing, because they were playing bands that like people really didn't know. They were still current artists, but if you weren't really listening to that kind of music, you weren't going to be exposed to that kind of music anywhere else except for on the show. And so I think in that way, it was kind of breaking artist
discovery phase,
discovering. So like, and they had episodes where they had Lady Gaga on it. They had a whole episode where they had all Frank Ocean's music on it when his career was just starting to take off. So like, you were finding new people and finding new music and bands, and that was really fun about the show. Was that like the needle drops were like, oh, this song is really good. Like, who is this song by? And you would go online and figure it out, right? Or you would have big artists like Gaga who would come on the show, and it's like, and it gave like legitimacy to the world that they were building on the show. So I feel like if you do it that way, I think that's really good. But if you're kind of just playing whatever's on the top 100, it's gonna, if you try to go back and watch it, it's not gonna hit the same way, because it's gonna be like, okay, well, yeah, I guess that song was hot a couple of years ago, but who cares? Like, where is the artist at now? Like, whatever. So I'm not a fan of it. I don't think it's a smart idea, but for the girlies who are watching it just for the vibes, like I guess it's fine.
And then I also think it also eats into a lot of the budget for these projects that could go to like writers and below the line talent, because now you're like, hey, record company, I want to use your song. I want to pay the rights to use it. So when you can go to another artist who, like you said, is kind of more underground and bubbling, who gives you that same sound and aesthetic for a fraction of the cost, and you also help another person's career. Like, people can go back and say, oh yeah, I thank you Amazon or blah 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 blah, they helped put me on this platform, as to why I'm here, but
so that's that. All right. Well, that is it from us this week. We hope that you're all doing well and taking care of yourselves. Make sure to check out all of our social media, support us if you can, and we will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.
Au revoir.